Ethan thought it was just a normal argument, but when he put his ear to the door, his stepfather's words made him freeze. "Tomorrow, I will leave Ethan at sea," Vincent said. Ethan tried to stay calm, but then he heard his mother's cold voice. "Just do it. 15 years is enough." At that moment, everything Ethan believed in broke apart. His heart ached. His own mother wanted to get rid of him. It was a dark night. The wind howled outside, slamming against the windows as if it wanted to come inside. Ethan lay in bed, trying to sleep, but the old wooden house creaked and groaned. Then, he heard voices in the living room. It was Vincent, his stepfather, and Evelyn, his mother. At first, their words were soft, but then Vincent's voice became sharp and angry. "The boy is a burden," Vincent spat. "I'll take him to the sea tomorrow and leave him there." Ethan's whole body stiffened. His legs felt weak. "No, he can't mean me," Ethan thought. Maybe he had misunderstood. But then Evelyn spoke. "No one will ask about him," she said without any sadness. Vincent replied, "It will be like he never existed." Ethan bit his hand to stop himself from making a sound. He wanted to run into the room and scream, "Why?" But he knew he couldn't. If they found out he had heard them, things might get even worse. He closed his eyes and tried to find strength. Then, he remembered something his father, Thomas, had once told him while teaching him to swim. "The sea is strong, Ethan," Thomas had said, "but if you respect it, it will help you. Never fear it. Learn to use it." That memory gave Ethan hope. His father had always believed in him. He couldn't let fear control him. If Vincent wanted to take him to the sea, then Ethan would show him he was strong. The wind outside kept howling. The waves crashed loudly, but inside Ethan, a fire of courage started to burn. He would not give up. By morning, the sky was gray, and the air smelled of salt. The house was quiet, as if it knew something bad was about to happen. Ethan woke up with a heavy heart, but he kept his face calm. He had heard everything last night, but he would not let them see his fear. Vincent's boots echoed through the house. He smiled at Ethan, but his eyes were cold. "Hey kid," he said, "let's go for a boat ride. The sea is calm today." Ethan looked at him and saw the lie in his eyes. He wanted to shout, "I know what you're planning," but he didn't. Instead, he forced a small smile and said, "Sure." Vincent turned away, thinking Ethan had no idea. But Ethan clenched his fists. He was ready. The walk to the dock felt long. Vincent kept talking about the weather and the sea as if nothing was wrong. Ethan stayed quiet. He knew Vincent was pretending. They got into the boat. Vincent started the engine, and the dock disappeared behind them. The boat moved farther and farther from the shore. The only sounds were the hum of the motor and the soft splash of the waves. Ethan watched the dark water around them. His heart pounded, but he stayed still. He knew what was coming. Finally, Vincent stopped the boat. Everything was quiet. He turned to Ethan, his face now serious and cold. "You know why we're here, don't you?" Vincent asked. Ethan looked straight into his eyes. He took a deep breath and said, "Yes. But you won't win. You'll never break me." For a moment, Vincent looked surprised. He hadn't expected Ethan to be so brave. But before he could do anything, Ethan moved quickly. Splash! Ethan jumped into the freezing water. "Ethan!" Vincent shouted. He stood up in the boat, looking around. But Ethan was already swimming away. The water was ice cold. Every stroke was hard, but Ethan was strong. His father had taught him well. He knew how to move with the waves, not fight them. The sea had always been his friend, and now it would save him. Vincent stood frozen in the boat. He couldn't believe it. How was this boy, whom he had always thought weak, so brave? Ethan kept swimming, looking back only once. He saw Vincent standing there, lost and confused. Ethan's eyes were full of strength. He was saying, without words, "You can't destroy me." Vincent finally sat down. He started the engine and sped away, leaving Ethan behind. To him, Ethan was gone. He never looked back. He thought he had won, but he was wrong. Ethan floated in the open sea. The water was deep and dark, but he wasn't afraid. He had hidden small flotation devices under his clothes before leaving the house. Now, they kept him afloat. The cold bit at his skin, but he stayed calm. He had seen boats in this area before. Someone would find him. He just had to wait. Hours passed. The night was long. The stars shone above him, and the waves whispered around him. He closed his eyes and remembered his father's words. The sea is strong, but fair. Respect it, and it will never abandon you. The sun finally began to rise, painting the sky in soft oranges and pinks. Ethan opened his tired eyes. His body ached, but then, there, in the distance, a ship. His heart pounded with hope. He had to make them see him. With all his strength, he waved his arms and shouted, "Help! I'm here!" The ship got closer. The men on board, fishermen, saw him. Their faces turned from surprise to concern. "It's Thomas's boy. Get him out of the water," one of them shouted. Strong hands pulled Ethan onto the ship. He was cold and weak but safe. "What happened, kid? Why were you out there alone?" another fisherman asked. Ethan, still shivering, told them everything. He spoke of Vincent's cruel plan and how his mother had agreed. The fishermen listened, their faces dark with anger. "That monster," one of them growled. "Thomas was a good man. His son deserves better." Ethan looked up at them, his eyes full of determination. "I don't want to go back there. I want to stay with you. My father loved the sea, and I want to make it my home too." The men exchanged glances. They saw something special in Ethan, his courage, his strength. He was just like his father. Henry, an older fisherman with a gray beard, put a firm hand on Ethan's shoulder. "All right, Ethan, from now on, this ship is your home. We'll be your family. We'll teach you everything you need to know. You'll be safe here." Ethan sat on the boat as it moved through the water. The wind dried his face, and the sun warmed his skin. He had been through hard times, cold nights, darkness, and even betrayal. But now, he was ready for a new life, following in his father's footsteps. The men on the boat treated him like family. They taught him how to read the wind and stars, how to catch fish, and how to survive at sea. Even though Ethan was happy on the boat, some nights he thought about his father, Thomas. He remembered his father's strong hands, his laughter, and the wise words he always shared. One night, while standing on the deck under the moonlight, he heard his father's voice in his mind. "If you ever need a safe place, go to the cave in the bay. But don't tell anyone, not even your mother." Ethan was surprised. Why had his father said that? What was special about that cave? He had to find out. The next day, Ethan told Henry, an old fisherman who was like a mentor to him. Henry listened carefully. "The cave in the bay? Yes, I know it. It's 2 hours away by boat. Not many people go there. Some say it's full of bats. Others think it's cursed. Why do you ask?" Ethan looked at Henry with determination. "My father told me about it before he died. He said it was a refuge, but I don't know why. I need to find out." Henry thought for a moment, then sighed. "All right, kid. If it's that important to you, I'll take you there. But be careful." A few days later, they sailed to the cave. The bay was beautiful, surrounded by tall cliffs, and the water was a deep, shining blue. The cave entrance was dark and mysterious, like it was calling to Ethan. "There it is," Henry said. "But be careful, Ethan. That cave is not meant for everyone." Ethan nodded. "I will." Without another word, he stepped off the boat and walked toward the cave. It was huge, with sharp rocks hanging from the ceiling like giant teeth. The wind whispered inside, making soft, eerie sounds. Bats fluttered near the entrance, but Ethan didn't stop. He took a deep breath and walked in. The air inside was cool and damp. His footsteps echoed. As he moved deeper, shadows danced on the walls. Ethan felt like the cave was watching him. He didn't know what he was looking for, but he trusted his father's words. Then he saw it. To one side, the ground dipped, revealing a small, clear pool of water. It glowed a deep blue. Kneeling down, Ethan peered into the water. Something was hidden at the bottom. His heart pounded with excitement. Taking a deep breath, Ethan plunged into the water. It was freezing. He swam deeper, reaching out toward a shadowy shape. His fingers touched something solid, a wooden box stuck between the rocks. It looked old and worn. With all his strength, he pulled it free and swam back up. Gasping for air, he dragged the box onto the shore. Carved into the wood were strange symbols and names. With shaking hands, Ethan lifted the lid. His eyes widened in amazement. Inside were shining white pearls, colorful gemstones, and golden coins. There were rings and necklaces, each more beautiful than the last. The coins had markings he didn't understand, but they looked ancient. There were even tiny objects carved from ivory and shells, telling stories of the past. Ethan stared in awe. This was not just treasure, it was a gift from his father. A legacy. He remembered his father's stories about fishermen who battled the sea. This treasure wasn't just about wealth. It was about love, sacrifice, and the bond between father and son. Tears filled Ethan's eyes. He looked toward the entrance of the cave, where the first rays of morning light were shining in. He whispered, "Thank you, Dad. I will always honor this." When Ethan returned to the boat, the wooden box rested on his lap. He was still wet from the water, but his face was calm, his eyes shining with new purpose. The other fishermen gathered around, sensing something important had happened. Henry stepped forward and asked, "What did you find, Ethan?" Ethan opened the box, revealing the treasure inside. "This belonged to my father. He always said the sea gives more than just fish. Now I understand. This is not just treasure, it's his legacy." The fisherman nodded in respect. Henry placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "Your father was a wise man. He knew exactly what he was doing." In the days that followed, Ethan took some of the coins and jewels to an old antique dealer named Arthur. Arthur studied them carefully and said, "Son, these are priceless. These coins are from an ancient time. These jewels could make you rich. One coin alone could change your life." Ethan stood still, letting the words sink in. This treasure was more than he had imagined. It was a doorway to a future he had never dreamed of. Over the next few years, Ethan used his father's treasure wisely. By the time he turned 18, he had become a successful businessman. He bought a fish factory in the city, using his love for the sea to create a business that helped others. He bought modern fishing boats, making sure the fishermen had the best tools to work with. But Ethan never forgot the men who had helped him. One day, he called them together at the factory. "You are my family," he said. "If my father were here, he would want us to work together. I will pay you more than you ever earned at sea. You deserve this and more." The fishermen, who had worked hard all their lives, could hardly believe his kindness. Henry smiled and placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "Your father would be proud, Ethan. You carry his spirit." Even though Ethan became wealthy, he never let it change him. He didn't return to his mother or his stepfather, Vincent, who had hurt him in the past. He left those painful memories behind. He knew that the real treasure was not in gold or pearls, but in the freedom to live his own life, the respect he had earned, and his deep connection to the sea. As the years passed, Ethan became more than just a rich man. He became a symbol of strength and perseverance. From a boy on a fishing boat, he built an empire, exporting fish across the world. His new ideas changed the fishing industry, and people admired him for his hard work and wisdom. With his success, Ethan built a beautiful house by the sea. It was not just a mansion. It was a symbol of his journey, his struggles, and his love for the ocean. From his balcony, Ethan often watched the waves crash against the rocks. The waves reminded him of all the hard times he had faced and overcome. Ethan's story became famous. Magazines and TV shows talked about him. People loved hearing how an orphan boy, once left all alone, grew up to become a great fishing business owner. Standing on his balcony, Ethan looked at the big, endless ocean. Every wave felt like a piece of his father's spirit, reminding him of the lessons he had learned. Ethan's story inspired many people, but not everyone was happy for him. Someone from his past, someone he wanted to forget, was watching. It was Vincent, his cruel stepfather. Vincent hated seeing Ethan become so successful. He was jealous and angry. He couldn't stand the idea that the boy he had once abandoned was now doing better than him. Vincent wanted to destroy Ethan. He wasn't just looking for revenge. He wanted to erase the proof of his own failures. One dark night, Vincent came to Ethan's house. His eyes were full of anger, and he had a knife hidden under his jacket. He walked into the house without knocking, ready to finish what he had started years ago. But Ethan was not alone. Inside were Henry and other fishermen, old friends of Ethan's father, Thomas. They had been with Ethan from the beginning and knew all about Vincent's cruel past. As soon as Vincent stepped in, Henry blocked his way. "What do you think you're doing here?" Henry asked, his voice firm. "I'm here to talk to Ethan," Vincent said, trying to sound calm. "He owes me, and I've come to take what's mine." Henry crossed his arms. Talk? Don't lie. We know who you are and what you tried to do to him. Ethan told us to leave you alone, but this ends now." Before Vincent could say anything, the fishermen moved fast. They grabbed him, took away his knife, and tied him up with strong ropes. Vincent tried to fight back, but these men were strong. Years of hard work at sea had made them tough. One of the fishermen looked down at Vincent and said, "For every time you hurt him, every cruel thing you did, it's time for you to pay the price." When they were done, they called the police. The police came quickly and arrested Vincent for trying to hurt Ethan. When Ethan heard what had happened, he didn't feel angry or sorry for Vincent. He just nodded, as if a heavy weight had finally been lifted off his shoulders. Ethan didn't hate Vincent, but he didn't care about him either. He knew Vincent had made his own choices. Now, Ethan's story was not just about success. It was also about justice. His big house by the ocean stood as proof that he had won, and Vincent had lost. People saw Vincent as a lesson. If you try to destroy someone strong, you will only destroy yourself. Even though Vincent was in prison, Ethan still felt a shadow from his past. It was Evelyn, the woman who had once helped him when he was little, but later betrayed him in the cruelest way. To truly be free, Ethan had to face her. Ethan waited patiently, knowing he would find her one day. And he did. She was living in a small house in a quiet town by the sea. When she opened the door and saw Ethan standing there, her face turned pale. Her eyes were wide with shock and fear. She looked like she had just seen a ghost. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice shaking. "What are you doing here?" Ethan stayed calm. He had waited a long time for this moment. Now that it was finally here, he didn't feel anger. He just needed to talk. He needed to end this chapter of his life. "I'm not here to yell or get revenge," Ethan said. "I just need you to listen." Evelyn stepped back, leaning against the door. Her face looked tired, and her eyes were full of guilt. Ethan saw it clearly, but he wasn't going to let it change his mind. "Do you remember what you did?" Ethan asked. "Think about it. Do you remember letting Vincent try to kill me?" He paused, but didn't wait for an answer. "I don't care why. It doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that I survived. Not because of you, but because of my father, Thomas. Because of what he taught me. Because of my friends who stayed by my side when you left me behind." Evelyn tried to speak, but no words came out. Tears filled her eyes. She shook slightly. Ethan continued, "I'm not going to send you to prison. I don't need to. But I'm going to ask you for one thing, leave. Go far away. Don't ever come back. I don't want to see you. I don't want to hear from you. I don't want you in my life ever again." Tears ran down Evelyn's cheeks. She tried to say something, maybe an apology, but she couldn't find the words. She knew Ethan was right. She had done terrible things, and now she had to face the truth. "I'm sorry," she finally whispered, but her voice was so soft it was almost nothing. Ethan gave a small nod but said nothing more. It was too late for sorry. He turned and walked away, heading to his car. Evelyn stood in the doorway, crying. Her heart was heavy with regret. A few days later, Ethan heard that Evelyn had left town. No one knew where she had gone, and Ethan didn't care. For him, it was over. She had disappeared, just like a shadow fading in the evening light. Ethan returned to his house by the sea. Standing on the cliffs, he watched the waves crash against the rocks. He finally felt free. The painful past was behind him. Now, he could look toward the future with peace in his heart. The ocean, his old friend, whispered to him, offering comfort and reminding him of the strength he had gained. Ethan kept living his life with dignity and strength. He worked hard with his father's old friends, the fishermen who had become his family. Together, they built a successful fishing business. It was more than just work for Ethan. It was a way to honor his father's memory. Ethan also found love. He met a woman who was kind and strong. She saw past his success and loved him for who he really was. They got married in a small wedding by the sea, with their closest friends around them. The waves, always present, seemed to celebrate with them. Together, they built a happy family. Ethan taught his children to respect the ocean, to be strong, and to never give up when life got hard. Their home was always filled with laughter, love, and stories of Ethan's past. Ethan never forgot the betrayals he had suffered or the hard times he had faced, but he refused to let them define him. Instead of becoming bitter, He became an example of strength and hope. He showed the world that no matter how dark the past is, you can still build a bright future. The ocean was always there, whispering to him during his quiet walks along the shore. Every sunrise over the water reminded Ethan of his own journey, sometimes calm, sometimes stormy, but always worth living. Ethan's story teaches us that life is like the ocean, full of peaceful moments and big storms. But if we keep moving forward, we will find our strength, our purpose, and our peace. Did this story touch your heart? Share your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about Ethan's strength and his connection to the sea? If you enjoyed this story and would like to see more content like it, I encourage you to subscribe to my channel. By subscribing, you'll stay updated on all our latest, inspiring and heartwarming stories and have the opportunity to engage with our growing community. Additionally, I would love to hear your thoughts and feedback in the comments section below. Thank you for your support, and I look forward to sharing more captivating narratives with you.